They fined me $30,000. Not for drugs, not for weapons, not for anything that would ever make the evening news. For grass. My mother's grass. She'd just died. And while I was sorting through her things, picking out a casket, trying to remember what kind of flowers she wanted, they started a clock. $500 a day. No phone call, no knock on the door. Just white envelopes piling up in a mailbox I hadn't checked in weeks. By the time I opened them, they had already put a lien on the house I grew up in. Now I need you to hold one thing in your mind while I tell this story. Those envelopes, 61 of them. Same city seal, same font, same $500 fine inside. I'll tell you what those envelopes did to the people who sent them before this video is over. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe now. Next week's story makes this one look like a parking ticket. But first, you need to understand the house they tried to take. It wasn't a mansion. It wasn't some vacation property picked out of a catalog. It was a single-story home on a quiet street in Dunedin, Florida. His mother's home. She'd raised him there. Packed his lunches in that kitchen. Hung Christmas lights along that roofline every December. The kind of house where the carpet still held the indent of furniture that hadn't moved in 30 years. Where the hallway smelled like her perfume long after she was gone. Jim wasn't looking for trouble. He was trying to settle an estate, trying to hold on to the last thing she left behind. And then the grass started growing. The first notice arrived 6 weeks after the funeral. A single sheet from the City of Dunedin Code Enforcement Division. Typed, stamped, no handwritten note, no condolence. The violation. Overgrown grass and weeds exceeding the allowable height on a residential property. The fine, $500 per day. Jim read it, set it on the kitchen counter next to his mother's pill organizer, and told himself he'd deal with it next week. He didn't deal with it next week. That was his first mistake, because the city didn't wait. They hired a contractor to mow the lawn themselves, then billed Jim for the service. And the $500 a day clock, it kept running. Not from the day he received the letter, from the day the violation was first observed. Weeks before the notice was even mailed. No one called, no one knocked. The code enforcement officer, who signed every notice, a name Jim wouldn't learn until much later, never once checked whether the homeowner she was fining had buried his mother 30 days earlier. She just kept signing. Week 1, $500. Week 2, $3,500. Week 4, $14,000. The numbers climbed like a meter. No one had bothered to read, ticking away in a government office while Jim sorted through boxes in his mother's bedroom, deciding which photos to keep and which to let go. He didn't know the counter was running. The envelopes kept coming. One for the grass along the side yard, violation. One for weeds near the mailbox, violation. One for the lawn Jim had already paid the city's own contractor to mow. And this is real. Recited as a new violation because the grass had grown back 3 weeks later. Every envelope, same seal, same font, same signature at the bottom. Each one adding $500 to a total Jim hadn't seen yet. He was still finding his mother's handwriting on grocery lists, tucked inside kitchen drawers. Was still canceling her magazine subscriptions. He was still getting her mail forwarded. And every single day, $500 more. No phone call from the city, no visit, no courtesy email, no flag in the system that said, "This property is in probate. The owner just died." The code enforcement database doesn't have a field for grief. It has a field for compliance and a field for penalty. And the penalty field had no cap. By the time Jim finally opened every envelope, spread them across his mother's kitchen table, and added up the number. His hands went still. $29,714 for grass. On the house his mother left him, and the city of Dunedin had already filed a lien to take it. Jim did what most people do when the number is too big to fight alone. He started calling lawyers. Most of them said the same thing: pay the fine, negotiate it down, move on. One of them said something different. The Institute for Justice is a non-profit legal organization that takes constitutional cases for free. They don't do small claims. They don't do negotiations. They take cases that test the limits of government power. And when they heard about 61 envelopes, adding up to nearly $30,000 for unmowed grass, they didn't hesitate. The attorney who took Jim's case pulled out every notice, lined them up across a conference table. 61 envelopes, oldest to newest, and read the fine print on each one. Same amount, same violation, same signature, same $500, compounding without limit, without hearing, without a single attempt to reach the homeowner by phone or in person. Then she said quietly, "This isn't a code enforcement case. This is a constitutional case." The weapon was the Eighth Amendment to the United States Constitution. 5 words that most people skip over in school. Excessive fines shall not be imposed. Written in 1791, ratified before Florida was even a state. And it applied, the Institute argued, to every city, every county, every code enforcement office in the country. The city of Dunedin had 30 days to respond. They chose to fight. You'd think, after seeing 61 fines laid out on a table and hearing the words, Eighth Amendment, the city of Dunedin would have backed down, voided the fines, sent a quiet apology, moved on, you'd think. Instead, the city's attorneys filed a motion to dismiss. Their argument: the fines were properly assessed under municipal code, and the accumulation, no matter the amount, was standard procedure. $30,000 for grass was, in their legal opinion, reasonable. They put it in writing. They filed it with the court. They made it public record. And that was the moment the Institute for Justice had been waiting for. Because now it wasn't one man's story. It was a city on the record arguing that fining a grieving homeowner $500 a day for grass, with no cap, no hearing, no human review, was reasonable government conduct. The Institute didn't just fight the fine, they broadcast it. Washington Post picked it up, then CNN, then NPR. A 69-year-old man nearly lost his mother's house over grass, and the city said that was fine. The Florida state legislature disagreed. In 2021, the Florida state legislature passed House Bill 1203. The law placed strict limits on how much any municipality or code enforcement board could fine a homeowner before a hearing. It required written notice, real notice, confirmed receipt. It required a hearing before fines could exceed a threshold. It capped the kind of silent accumulation that had turned unmowed grass into a $30,000 lien on a dead woman's house. The governor signed it. Jim Ficken's name wasn't in the bill. It didn't need to be. His fines were voided, every last dollar. The lien on his mother's house was released. The city paid his legal fees in full. No negotiation, no compromise. The number went from $29,714 to zero. But the fallout didn't stop at Dunedin. Every city in Florida had to audit its code enforcement fines. Penalties that had been compounding silently for months, sometimes years, against homeowners who were elderly, deployed, hospitalized, or grieving. All of them now subject to constitutional review. What started with one man's grass rewrote the rules for millions of homeowners across an entire state. Jim still lives in the house on that quiet street in Dunedin, his mother's house. He mows the lawn himself now, every Saturday morning. Not because anyone told him to, because she would have wanted it that way. 61 fines for grass. One amendment. The whole state changed. If you made it to the end, you already know you belong here. Subscribe, because next week's story makes this one look like a warning label.